Start recording.
On Max. What? Yeah. I feel a bit more cramped than on the way down here though, because the seat won't go back.
Now both one lap behind, separated from each other by about 2.5 minutes. That's numbers 2 and 3 then in positions 3 and 4. In position 5, fifth place to Paul de Resta in the Peugeot 9X8. He's a further 2 laps behind the 2 Cadillacs. And then in 6th place is Dane Cameron in the number 5 Porsche, and he's a further 2 laps behind Paul de Resta's Peugeot. In 7th place is Miguel Molina in the number 50 Ferrari, and he is a further, no, in fact, he's on the same lap as Dane Cameron, and he's only 20 seconds behind. So progress being made then by Miguel Molina in the number 50 car, currently in 7th, but closing in on Dane Cameron in 6th. In 8th place, and 8th and 9th places, I should say, are the 2 Glickenhausers, still Ryan Briscoe in 708, ahead of Esteban Gutierrez in 709. Those 2 cars 6 and 7 laps behind the race leader respectively. And then rounding out the top 10 and all the leading hypercars is number 94 Gustavo Menezes in the second of the two Peugeots. Leading the way in LMP2 is still Fabio Scherer in the Inter-Europol competition car. He's completed 258 laps. In second place, Louis Deletraz for WRT, a minute and a half behind. And in third place in LMP2, Tymon van der Helm, back at the helm of the Panis Racing Orica car number 65, and he is a minute and a little bit behind the WRT car. In GTE AM, Ben Keating in the Corvette number 33 now leads the class. Would you believe that? Having had the problems they've had, they're now at the top of the list, except they're not, because they just made a pit stop. So it's Iron Dames back to the front there, but briefly Ben Keating was in the lead. So it's the Iron Dames car which leads GTE AM. That's car number 85. In second place is the ORT Aston Martin of Michael Dynan. That's car number 25. And then in third place in that class is the Corvette, which has Nicolas Varron now driving it following that pit stop. He's on his out lap, but with a full tank of fuel in third place in GTE AM.
The hourly update. Hertz Rental Car, getting you to your let's go moments for over 100 years.
91.2 FM Haggerty Radio Le Mans around the circuit and RS1 around the world. There are 4 hours and 26 minutes left to go in this compelling car race that has Ferrari in front of Toyota, and this battle all the way to the line. A bit to update from pit lane. I'd like to go down to Snowy first, because with a CrowdStrike Racing pit lane update, Snowy, Toyota have not offered up Sebastian Buemi, let's say, after his mega stint in the lead and then second place in that race.
Yeah, no, thanks, Richard. I'm sorry, I cut ahead of the jingle there, so apologies for not
all
listening
good.
there. Yeah, Simon Strang, who manages everybody at Toyota, is doing his absolute best job, and he just apologised to us all. We've got Nitro here and LeChun Lecue, and Simon was very kind of to put Regular One first in the queue, but it just couldn't be helped, and it's just a driver. Sebastian had come out of the box, got across to his engineers on the pit wall, had a great chat, and came across and literally just walked straight back into the back of the box. Not in a particularly talkative mood, but it would have been fascinating, because I wanted to pick up on the line new news with him of the world's largest car brand battling with the world's most famous, and that would have been an absolutely great conversation. But maybe we'll get it before the end of the race.
Peter Snowden there with a CrowdStrike Racing pit lane team update from the Toyota end of pit lane. So, yeah, a bit of debriefing happening there. Clearly, Bruce Jones, as they work out how to extract some more performance out of Car 8, because while we still don't have a particularly clear read on the final strategy, I'm not convinced they've actually got the raw car speed to go with the 51 of Alessandro Piaguidi.
No, it does seem that the Toyota, the number 8, the remaining Toyota, has to be wrung by the neck to get the speed to match something that looks, often it's just down to impression, but it just looks serene, that Ferrari 499P. And certainly in the hands of Alessandro Piaguidi, who is just such a superstar, it's very smooth. But Brendan Hartley, well, this is your time to shine. The gap between the race-leading Ferrari and the chasing number 8 Toyota is 17 and a half seconds, and just to work out, it was much closer than that, but at the last pit stop, of course, whole new set of tyres, a new group of tyres made a longer stop for the Toyota. But just going back to Simon Strang, I just bumped him in paddock a short while ago, and he's desperate that Toyota win, not because he works for the team, but his 50th birthday is coming up, and he said, do you remember when I was 21, you gave me my first job in motor racing back in the Autosport days? So Strangy, keep getting us the interviews, we'll see what we can do for you.
Yes.
Pull a few levers.
I'm not sure how much power we've got.
None.
The Trustwell strategy machine might be able to help them out. I'm not sure. We are going to have, at the very least, a slow zone, because there is an LMGT AM Porsche that has made contact with a wall, and it's made contact with a wall very hard. It's the Proton Competition 911. Big damage to that car. They weren't in the mix. It's Michael Fassbender behind the wheel, 36th position, 9th in the AM class. Now it's on the exit of the Porsche curves. It's So it's on the exit of the Porsche curves. He's dropped the car wide through the left-hand corner, and it's just lazily spun across the road. So that's Corvette, isn't it, really?
Yeah, the Corvette curve.
Corvette curve.
And so close to hitting the concrete part. Just got the rubber part, the tyre wall and conveyor belt part. But still, that was quite a hard hit for Michael Fassbender. And yeah, he will get the car back to the pit lane though, Richard, but it's going to need some work, and well, we'll see, is it large or is it small?
CrowdStrike Racing pit lane update. Nick Damon is on the scene.
I wish I was. Mr. Snowden actually down at this end. So,
sorry, Snowy.
It's right next to the Toyota garage. So the rear wing's straight on it, and it's remarkable for the. I've just seen the visual. That there's a screen on the top of the Rolex podium here that Joe Bradley mentioned earlier, which is very useful for us in the pit lane if you're down at this end. Just saw how that car jinked up in the air. Looked like a lot of damage. All four wheels are remarkably square. I'm not sure it's got the exact toe-in settings it had when it left here, but the first thing this garage did was obviously have spares in the garage lined up ready for a pit stop. They all got cleared. Cameramen got literally shoved and manhandled out of the way to have that car turned around, which it now is. It's 90 degrees going in, but it looks mostly bodywork, though the rear wing's gone. There is a bit of metalwork damage there at the back, just by the light unit as it goes in. But
saw one little mistake from him about 3
Start
hours ago.
recording.
Took the wheels in the gravel, got away with it. But Fabian Scherer and the boss himself, Kuba Schmidkowski, has just risen to a new level in this competition. The pressure is going to be enormous. We've got 4 hours and 10 minutes remaining in this race. They've been out front. Actually, Paul will tell us for how long into Europol number 34. Orica has led LMP2, but it's been a long while now. Team WRT are giving chase with Louis Delatraz. Third in class is Duquesne team, which has been really strong throughout. The number 30 entry with Neil Gianni, who we know, obviously, former works Porsche driver, et. Rennie Binder, very strong. Raced Indy cars as well, plenty of experience. Second generation Swiss Austrian racer. And the young 18-year-old, well, if you're young, or an 18-year-old, you're young, you know, Nico Pino, he's really earned his spurs. But there have been moments for the number 30 Duquesne team car. There have been some off-track moments. But then, how many cars out there have not had off-track moments through the course of this race?
I'm fairly certain every single one has had one at least point. I mean, half the hypercar field were off all at the same point in that madness that was unfolding, Paul, when the rain started falling early on.
Yeah, I mean, the behaviour since really the sun has risen has been far more stable this year. Yes, we've had incidents. We have the chasing Toyota, the car number 8, in the pit lane at the moment. Just quickly to answer the question about how long the number 34 car has been in the lead of its class, well, the answer is very nearly 3 hours since it was last had somebody in front of it, and that was only through pit stops.
CrowdStrike Racing pit lane update about that number 41 WRT Orica.
In she blows, fueled in, door open for a drink, but no driver getting out. Louis Delatraz staying on board, with a very intensive search around by everyone to have a look and see what they can see effectively within all the ducts and everything else, making sure all the detritus has been cleared. A thumbs up for the Goodyear man. Yep, the tyres are good to go for another one. The interesting thing is the tyres they've got laid out, but I don't think they're going to use now. They're not actually a matching set. They made out a new pair of fronts, a new rear left, but the rear right's obviously had a few laps on it because it's scuffed up. So they're already reusing certain tyres from sets from Hatch. Only got a couple of laps during our constant switch from wet to dry earlier today, but in the end didn't use any of them. And Louis Delatraz took a slurp of fuel and off he went. And then I turn to my left, we're going to have Duquesne in a minute.
CrowdStrike. Protection at every turn. Learn more at crowdstrike.com.
This is the kind of race you have to pay attention to constantly. We just had the number 8 Toyota in the pits. I didn't pay attention. Brendan Hartley was only on his 8th lap of his stint, normally a 12-lap stint, possibly extendable to 13 laps because of the slow zone that I was describing. But he's come in early. He's trying to get off the schedule. This is my interpretation, okay? This may be wrong. My interpretation is that he's trying to get off the same schedule as the 51 Ferrari. He knows as long as he's on the same schedule as the Alessandro Pierguidi Ferrari, he's not going to be able to catch up and overtake the Ferrari. So he's rolling the dice, saying, I will go on to a different strategy, that will give me a chance of catching up later should we have another slow zone, or possibly getting towards that last 4 hours of the race when you start looking towards the end of the race, avoiding the splash and dash. So Hartley in, he's on his way again now, and it's on his outlap, but the number 51 Ferrari did not come in, so the gap will have gone up. Don't be surprised at that. Brendan Hartley now has a full tank of fuel though.
Further at the pit lane, we have the 32 Kane car. It's a complete service. Nico Pino out, in has got Neil Yarni. Neil Yarni, of course, will be in a hypercar with the in the Proton car from Monza onwards, joining Harry Ticknell in that car. Clean screen, they're going to get a full set of tyres. And basically, what I think, just to add to the previous conversation, what Brendan is doing is what Seb Wenning asked them to do, is to put a gap in them to see if they can gain an advantage with the slow zone dying while they're in that gap. Effectively, you take the slow zone away while they're driving round, you find yourself very well off.
Thank you very much, Nick. Now a message is telling us that the team manager of car 34, that's the LMP2 class leading into Europol competition crew, to race director immediately in race control. So this could be a real upsetting of the apple cart after we've just been praising into Europol competition. Can't tell you as yet what the misdemeanor that needs clearing up is, but this could be so expensive.
So certainly there's nothing obvious, because that car doesn't appear on the list of race control messages, so I'm a bit mystified by that.
Nothing mystifying about the fact that car 51, the leading Ferrari with Alessandro Pierguidi, has pitted. So I wonder if this is a direct response to Toyota pitting Brendan Hartley early, and they've responded. They want to keep the pressure on Toyota and perhaps keep them on a similar sort of strategy where they've got a track position advantage. And there is a driver change underway in the Ferrari as well. So Pierguidi, after a typically fast and extremely professional stint, will jump out of car number 51.
Now that is interesting, because Pierguidi, having completed 9 laps on his stint, is going to come out ahead of Brendan Hartley, and if this is a quick stop, he'll be 15 seconds or so ahead of Brendan Hartley. Anyway, they've changed the tyres, changed the driver. No, did they change the driver?
Ferrari, they did, yes.
Yes,
yep,
they did.
James Collado is now on board.
So Brendan Hartley only did 8 laps. Bizarre.
And we'll get the rejoin. The Ferrari is going through the right-hander at the Dunlop chicane. The Toyota coming at full speed on hot tyres under the bridge now. So the margin has definitely reduced. It's somewhere in the vicinity of 4 seconds. More on that in a minute. In the meantime, let's go down and hear about a really talented young guy who's just driven a great stint in another CrowdStrike Racing pit lane update.
Yes, all the ins and outs of the hypercar battle. There's a huge amount of battling going on in LMP2. Nico Pino out of the Ducati in 3rd place. It's really hotting up in the top of P2, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a very intense race so far. The car now felt pretty good. Actually, it's the best so far throughout the whole race, so pretty happy with that. We had a strong pace in this first stint, then struggled a little bit on the second one. But yeah, I think we are in a good shape. The car is still in one piece, no mistakes. We had some few problems, 2 punctures in the middle of the race, which set us back a little bit. But I think we had the speed and we are in good shape to fight for the top 3.
How important to the team is having someone as experienced as Neil Yarni on it?
Well, Neil Yarni and René, of course, for me have been a huge help throughout this season, of course, to learn, make this learning curve a lot faster, how to approach a race and everything. So the experience they bring is incredible. They help us develop the car a lot. So it is constant, improvement that we do as a team. Duquesne especially, the guys have done a flawless job throughout the race. So yeah, it makes a huge impact when it comes to all the race preparation.
And is it now a simple rotation so you'll get in for the end of the race?
We don't know yet. It depends on the strategy, how the race follows. So it's been pretty
Video
close.
locked.
Not supposed to jump now, but then we decided to change a little bit. So it all depends how the race is playing out this last couple of hours.
Okay, thank you. Nick Damon there with Nico Pino, talented young driver. We've got another slow zone on the circuit, or at least we will, because there's dramas for a Cadillac, but it's not one of the works cars. It's the number 311 Action Express Racing entry that's been in the wars. It started very early in the race, this car, and it's been the driver, unfortunately, that's not having a particularly good day. Jack Aitken has turned the car into the Daytona chicane, which is the first of the two chicanes on the Mulsanne Straight. He's just clipped that inside curb. The car was sliding on the entry, so perhaps a little bit too hot into the corner. It clipped that inside curb and it's gone across to driver's right, and it is well buried in the gravel trap.
All I can say is Jack Aitken will be leading a campaign for the chicanes to be removed from the Mulsanne Straight, because it was coming out of that very same corner on the opening lap. Different point in the chicanes that he got it wrong and put the car 16 laps down.
All right. Just hearing about a slow zone. That is going to happen in the meantime. It's time to check out the weather.
Radio Le Mans weather.
Perfect conditions here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. It's just climbing to 22 degrees at the moment. We're on our way for a top of 26. If you're here, put the sunscreen on bright. Sunshine through some patchy clouds and still some forecast of rain a little bit later on this afternoon. Radio Le Mans weather with Flywheel. You can see the Le Mans class-winning AC Cobra, yes please, on track next weekend.
Le Mans milestones on Haggerty Radio Le Mans.
Arnaud Lippmann has chosen an extreme example of endurance for this milestone. The 1952 race was notable for what might have been, and in some ways what it led to. French driver Pierre Levesque, actually Pierre Boulin, privately entered his Talbot Largo T26 Spider for himself and his co-driver René Marchand. The Talbot was leading when a bolt in the central crankshaft bearing began to loosen. Believing only he could nurse the car to the finish, Levesque refused to let his teammate drive. Inside the last hour and with a 4-lap lead, the engine failed at Maison Blanche. The Mercedes-Benz W194 Gullwing of Lang & Rice took the lead 20 minutes later and went on to win. After the race, Mercedes designer and engineer Rudolf Uhlenholz promised Levesque a Mercedes drive when the marque returned to Le Mans. That promise was fulfilled in 1955 with tragic consequences.
Le Mans miles on 91.2 FM and around the world at radiolemans.com. This is Haggerty Radio Le Mans.
I wonder if in the future our Haggerty Radio Le Mans listeners will nominate this race as a Le Mans milestone, because that's how we've generated that list that you've heard throughout the course of the day. Our listeners have nominated their favourite moments, their milestones, and those that were selected for inclusion into our coverage were given tickets to the race. And what a race to visit. Now, we're under a quite lengthy slow zone, which extends from the exit of the Dunlop chicane all the way down to the Daytona chicane, halfway down the Mulsanne Straight.
Yes, and there's another one in place, slow zone 3, which is going up toward, oh no, yes, it's, that's right, yes, so slow zone 3 is from the tech route up to the first chicane, so yeah, that's absolutely right, Richard.
Go on, please.
No, just that they are now being removed, so that's good. I'm just wondering what we've achieved by those two extra little pit stops. James Collado and Brendan Hartley separated by not very much at all on the track. But as I say, we've got the situation where Collado has the advantage. He seems to be able to draw away from Hartley, and all they've done, I suppose, is just cover any possible luck that the Toyota might be able to gain through the chips falling, unfortunately, for.
Yeah,
full course green.
Team radio to Brendan Hartley.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, basically, if Ferrari could just annul everything that the Toyota crew does, then that's what they're going to do. But they've got the pace as well. Just that tiny marginal difference, which is such a sweet thing to have at this point in the race where hopefully the last 4 hours will run through in the dry, stable conditions.
The only reason why Ferrari might regret doing what they've done is that they've thrown away the opportunity to establish a bigger lead, because in effect Brendan Hartley gave them the opportunity to be 45 seconds up the road, and by making that, or James Collado as it now is, but he gave them the opportunity to go 45 seconds up the road. They decided they'd rather just have the sight of the opposition. What's the expression? Keep your enemies...
Keep your friends closer,
yeah. All right, how about one about the jam in the sandwich, or the ham in the sandwich, because the next car behind Brendan Hartley is the other Ferrari, car number 50, Miguel Molina, probably riding to, possibly to the rescue for Ferrari. If he can get closer by about 3 seconds to be on the tail of Brendan Hartley, put the pressure on him, and that may just allow race leader James Collado to pull clear. Right now, James, in his own way, is just doing it by a 10th here, a 10th there by the things, Krause.
Paul, are they being too conservative, Ferrari, or is it too early in the race to worry about that, or too far out from the finish is probably the more correct way to say that?
I don't think they're being too cautious. I don't know. I'm putting my... There's a certain American approach to motor racing, and I'm being very generalistic there. But they kind of like to be able to, as Bruce said, cover each other off in American racing, and kind of make it entertaining by keeping close to each other and running close together. I'm a traditionalist where I think you run your race independently of what the others are doing. You go as far as you can, as fast as you can in the 24 hours, and then if anybody else can beat you, they've beaten you.
Yeah.
But you don't actually keep an eye on where your competition is. You just run your race and try and get as far as you can ahead. It's two ways of doing it, because the advantage of doing it my way, as I would say, is that if you do then have a problem later and you have a sticking wheel gun or a car that won't start, you're sitting on a bit of a cushion that you can then use up. What the Ferrari has done now is if they do need a cushion, they haven't got it.
Good point. Well reasoned. Well made. So we'll find out in the next 3 hours and 53 minutes. So there are a couple of laps into this stint now. So 1, 2, 4 pit stops left, do you think, for the two leading cars?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stops.
Okay. With a short one at the end for fuel, perhaps?
Yeah, definitely a short-term one, but it'll be still around 45 seconds.
So just team radio there to Brendan Hartley, talking about managing the gap as James Collado in the second chicane on the Mulsanne Straight comes into the Walkenhorst Racing Ferrari 488. It's strange to say Walkenhorst and Ferrari in the same sentence, but Jeffrey Siegel, the American, is behind the wheel there. They're 9th in LMGTA and running 37th outright at the moment, and a little bit of margin again, ceded back to Brendan Hartley. Euro Interpol still on top in LMP2, by the way, and the Iron Danes continue to lead GTEM with Sarah Bovey doing a fine job out in front in the bright pink Porsche RSR with a 9.2 second lead.
Right, to get in my mind here, I have to just stop thinking the Ferrari is faster. I've got to just appreciate we're 20 hours into this race. There's 2 seconds between first and second. There is absolutely nothing. Yes, the Ferrari, third in the line, is 6 laps down, ranked in, where is he now, in 7th position. This battle for the lead, the cars have different advantages at different points on the circuit, but I'm really, really impressed by the pace that Brendan Hartley's managing to get out of it. As he goes out of Indianapolis, he's a second and a half down, closing onto the tail of the Ferrari, or nearly, as they turn through Arnage. There's traffic up ahead, and every back-marking car, the next one they're going to catch is the Corvette. The Ferrari, number 51, jinks round, no problem for Alessandro Pierguidi, but Brendan Hartley, he cannot hold back anywhere. He's got to attack. But then again, how is he feeling this number 8 Toyota is running? Because certainly Sebastian Buemi was constantly trying to get it tweaked to his liking, hopefully to everyone's liking. I mean, he and Hartley have raced together for years now, so they know how the car should be. But right now, Brendan, the Kiwi, is absolutely flying, throwing everything at it.
What we've seen, Bruce, in the last couple of stints, I think, from these cars is that when Hartley's within 1.5, maybe 2 seconds, he tends to stay with the Ferrari, but the moment he drops back from traffic, he just loses the tail end of that car and the margin starts building out. So I don't know if that's just the way that car behaves when it's in traffic. Maybe it deals with the hot air, the dirty air of the cars in front differently to the Ferrari, the Toyota I'm talking about. But when he's got the gun sights on, he can run with him. But we're yet to see over a stint the Toyota show the same raw pace as that number 51 Ferrari that James Calado is now steering so well.
It is actually Brendan Hartley. The initial message came up, or no, let me just. No, it is, sorry, go back to where you were, Trustwell. Brendan Hartley against James Calado in the Ferrari. Yes, that's right. Sorry. So I was getting myself confused there for a moment. Apologies. Yes, I mean the problem is if you look at the best laps put in by both of those two leading runners, the best lap for the Ferrari, number 51, a 3:27.8. The best lap for the Toyota, 3:28.3. So there's half a second of difference in potential just looking at the best lap time. Admittedly, not a lot. And I think the team manager saying to Brendan, try and manage the gap, stop it from getting too big. But it's really just another way of saying drive as fast as you can.
and it's pressure too. The more pressure Brendan Hartley can lay on the back of car 51, it opens the door to mistakes. It puts pressure on the team at the next pit stop if inevitably, and they will because they have all day, they pull into pit lane together.
Yeah, well, it's the only tool they really have in their armoury at the moment. So Brendan's just got to keep that pressure on. Of course, he's relying on the team trying to do something different. Well, they tried to do something different. A lap later, it was covered off by Ferrari. But Ferrari just that slight speed advantage. But right now, really, there's no difference between Calado and Hartley. It will be traffic that sorts whether the gap goes out or in. And let's see. I thought Miguel Molina may find the pace because that number 50 Ferrari that had been delayed has proved very quick indeed, particularly in the hands of Antonio Fuoco. I thought it'd be getting up now onto the tail of Hartley. Hasn't happened yet, but it may yet.
This is special, isn't it? I hope there'll be a lot of first-time people watching this race.
Keep pushing.
Team radio, keep pushing. It's the usual hype messages that come down the engineering channel. You've got to be a life coach as much as an engineer in this day and age. I hope people watching this race or joining us on our coverage on Haggerty Radio Le Mans for the first time, and there's going to be a lot of first-timers watching with all the interest as the leaders drive through a plume of smoke down at Indianapolis. Crazy smoke there, but nothing involving any of the leading cars. And at this point, there is a yellow flag being shown down at that point, and it's the car guys' Ferrari, which has had an off. Hence the dust and dirt that we were peering through to watch the leaders traverse. So it was pure circumstance that they got there at that point. But the car guys, of course, the Ferrari, is stuck on the opposite side of the gravel trap. It's got to the little exit road that runs between the wall and the gravel trap, and it's pointing the wrong direction down at Indianapolis.
Yes, I mean, I was just looking to see where that car was, because not so very long ago it was our class leader, the 57 car, Daniel Serra, at the wheel of it at the moment. Now it's 7th in class, and looking down at the GTE class altogether, all 7, the top 7, not all 7, but all the top 7 GTE AM cars are all on the lead lap as far as their class is concerned. So whatever happens in the other classes, we're going to have a humdinger there. We've got 10 seconds separating first from second. That's Porsche to the ORT Aston. We've got 4 seconds separating first from second, 20 seconds separating second from third, 52 seconds separating third from fourth. That's now come down, of course, because they're unwinding from the slow zone. With a best lap of the car so far by Nicolas Love-Baron.
CrowdStrike Racing pit lane update. Let's talk about the Northwest AMR Aston Martin.
The number 98 Aston Martin Vantage AMR. They just came and did a fairly routine pit stop, and it was very, very slick as you'd expect, and I was just keeping out of the way. And of course, the rims that come off the car and they get put down inside out, as it were, so they drop all their brake dust onto the surface of the pit lane here. Then the core technicians these days, I'm going to call him a mechanic, comes out with literally a hand dustpan and brush, and it's sweeping it all up. And of course, I'm aware that it's not just being tidy, but it's just it's a trip hazard or slip hazard, isn't it? And it's gotten near to me. I just said, very, very tidy. He said, well, if you stand at the right place next time, he said, I'll do your shoes for you at the same time.
CrowdStrike. Data protection 24/7. For more, go to crowdstrike.com.
Brendan Hartley, I'm pushing as fast as I can go, I think was the message there. And the gap is 2.19 seconds, so it's extended by a second. Bruce, the other problem that Brendan's got is that the sister Ferrari, car number 50's got Miguel Molina behind the wheel, is catching him as they get into the slow zone.
Yeah, for a couple of laps he was making no progress whatsoever, I thought, so this riding to the rescue could have been an option that was being removed from the Miguel Molina. The last few laps has closed right in, so this is not the dream scenario. There's Brendan Hartley pushing as hard as he can, but let's find someone else who's pushing as hard as he can. Joe Bradley down in the pit lane.
Can you believe it, guys? Inside the final 4 hours, I mean, where did the time go? It's incredible, and we are now getting into the sequence of pit stops that become, well, to be honest, all the pit stops have been important since we started, but ever more so inside that final 4 hours. And I've just seen the number 85, the Iron Davis Porsche, come in, didn't take tyres, the driver stayed on board, only fuel. So we are shaving seconds, important seconds being shaved by not going on to another set of tyres and just doing the fueling as quickly as possible. So we have a gearbox problem.
The pressure is on the racetrack and indeed down in pit lane as well. So slow zone in activation from the entry to the kink at Mulsanne, all the way down through the first two parts of Indianapolis and Arnage. So almost the entire field is going through that part of the racetrack as we speak.
And what we had before that slow zone was put into place was an indication of how hard they're pushing when the track is green. We had a lap time from James Collado 3:28.591, Brendan Hartley of 3:29.139, Dane Cameron in the Porsche.
Just a bit of team radio there. Again, Toyota talking about slow zones, Paul.
And a 3:29.2 from Dane Cameron, a 3:29.1 from Miguel Molina in the 50 Ferrari. So, you know, this is not the time. I mean, I think we all expected it this year, to be honest, but normally you get into the last 4 hours of Sunday afternoon, Bruce, this is when people are just stroking it home to the finish. Far from the case here. They're pulling out, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see another fastest lap of the race from this pit here.
Absolutely, they're up in the ante, and I really feel the heat coming on Brendan Hartley, because now he's about 3-4 seconds down on race leader James Collado, but he's got Miguel Molina, who is many laps down, 6 laps in arrears, right on his tail with the pace to go past, and then suddenly drop his lap speed down by a little bit. Not being cynical, it's how racing works, and through the Porsche curves they go, and there's a precious little between the second place Toyota and the Ferrari that's putting him under so much pressure. And I think any further radio messages from Brendan Hartley, they were curt to start with, they're going to be almost non-existent. He's got a job on his hands.
And this is an interesting situation because they're on the start-finish straight now. They're heading up past the tribune and into turn 1 now, past pit exit. And Miguel Molina is trying to unlap himself. He's a long way off the lead, but he's got a right to unlap himself if he's quicker than the cars he's trying to pass. But he can't interfere with this race-leading battle. He's got a really delicate game to play here, especially because his teammate is the one that is leading the race right now.
It's not the unlapping himself which is the issue, Richard. It's what he does after he's unlapped himself.
We're wondering if we can keep the tire. Do you think the tire can go 3 stints? Question.
Honestly, guys, you see how much you gained at the slow zone? I'm fed up with that.
So Brendan Hartley's fed up with how much the Ferrari gained ground in the slow zone, but that's just a bit of quid pro quo there. You win some, you lose some. Interesting that they're asking about whether they can triple stint the tyre, though, Paul, when that clearly looking for a time saving in the next pit stop and maybe jump the Ferrari and get some track position.
Well, if anybody knows how to make the tyres last, it's Toyota. You know, the message I was getting before the start of this race was Toyota could eat.
control. That was because of a pit infringement. Now they've got to go to the stewards for a safety car infringement. This is the car leading P2. If there's any form of penalty, that means Louis Delatraz's car, the 41 Team WRT Orica, will go to top of the class. Then it's really close for third. What is currently third, but could be second. Ducati Team's Neil Jani is being caught. He's only 3 seconds ahead of Edex Sport, who was so strong in the early stages of the race. And Paul Lou Chapin is closing in all the time on the Swiss driver. So I think there may be changes afoot.
in every class.
And yes, in GTE as well, we have entirely the opposite situation there that we do in the hypercar class, because the strategy of the 3 leading cars very, very different indeed. You may have mentioned Michael Dynan in the lead of that class at the moment, Richard. He's going to have to come into the pits within the next lap or two, which will hand the lead over to Nicolas Laborone in the number 33 Corvette. But then he only has 5 laps in the lead before having to make his own pit stop, and that then elevates the Iron Lynx car back into, the Iron Dames car back into the top position. So unless they use some kind of slow zones and will get on the same strategy as each other, they're currently cycling through, looking at where their last pit stop's going to come.
And it strikes me from what we've seen in the last 2 hours that it's the Iron Dames that are the ones that end up last, if that makes sense, of those GTE cars that end up at the top of the pops in terms of that pit stop sequence. I think they're the ones possibly in the best situation, would be my read of that scenario.
Yes, and they're the ones who have to make, who don't have to make an extra pit stop.
So they
the
go
others
longer.
will have to stop for a splash of fuel.
That would be an incredible story. And for Porsche in GTE, had a shocking qualifying session. Didn't get one car into Hyperpole on Thursday night. But they have, from a race point of view, been in outstanding form and have been towards the front all the way through. Remember, there's so much on the line in the GTE class. It is the big farewell for that great category. I was out early this morning listening to some RSRs going through the Ford chicane, and it was a nice way to wake up. Oh, a little bit. A little bit. The point I was trying to make quite poorly before was that this battle is utterly captivating, and there will be a massive first-time audience joining us here on Haggerty Radio Le Mans, and everyone else watching around the world watching this for the first time. And I truly hope, A, they're loving it, and how could you not, but B, they appreciate what they're seeing, which is 2 of the massive heavy hitters in motorsport and the motoring road car industry around the world today. The world's biggest car maker in Toyota, and the most famous, most prestigious brand in motorsport in Ferrari, going punch for punch in a 24-hour car race, lapping almost at the quickest they've gone all day with 3 hours to go.